Hello everyone, welcome back to Cybertix. So it's day 11 and if you are watching this video, it means that you are learning new things every day with us. So make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. So let's get dive into our day 11 challenge. So let's start with our today's day 11 TryHackMe Advent of Cyber Challenge, where we are going to learn about the Active Directory, how we can found some kind of vulnerabilities over here. So let's just understand the today's scenario. Anti-craft technology stack was very specialized. It was primarily focused on cutting edge climate research rather than prioritizing robust cybersecurity measures. As the integration of the two infrastructure systems progresses, vulnerabilities begin to surface. While anti-craft teams display remarkable expertise, their small size means that they need to emphasize cybersecurity awareness. Throughout the room, you will see that some users have too many permissions. We addressed most of these instances in the previous audit. But is everything now sought out from the perspective of the HR users? So let's just understand about this. So today we are going to understand about what do we mean by Active Directory, and we will get some knowledge about what do we mean by Windows Hello for businesses, and then prerequisites about the what do we mean by generic write privileges, and how we can perform a shadow credential attack and exploit the vulnerability where we can get the username and password and the track me flags over here. So let's just understand what do we mean by Active Directory. So, Active Directory AD is a system mainly used by businesses in Windows environment. It is centralized authentication systems. The domain controller DC is the heart of the AD and typically manages data storage, authentication, and authorization within a domain. You can think AD as a digital database containing objects like user groups and computers, each with specific attributes and permissions. Ideally, it applies the principle of least privileges and using a hierarchical approach to managing roles and giving authenticated users access to all non sensitive data throughout the system. For this reason, assigning permissions to the user must be approached cautiously as it can potentially compromise the entire Active Directory. We'll delve into this particular situation in the upcoming exploitation sections. So let's just understand now what do we mean by Windows Hello over here. But before that, let me just explain you what this diagram means. So this is the root forest, and then they have been linked with another forest also where they have child domains. So this particular line is we call as trust domains over here. Trust between the two domains. So suppose if the user wants to access the resources of this particular domains, so it will be accessible because they have the trust between these two forests. Now suppose if this particular user wants to access this, then they have to check out those he has any kind of permissions to read anything, then this will be accessible through this. So that's how the Active Directory work over here. But let's just understand about the thing. Passwords are hard to remember. It says like say hello to WHFB. So Windows uh, Hello for business. It is a modern and secure way to replace conventional password-based authentication. Instead of relying on traditional password, Windows Hello for Business utilizes cryptographic keys for user verifications. User on the Active Directory domain can access the AD using a PIN or biometric connected to the pair of cryptographic keys, public and private. Those keys helps to approve the identity of the entity for which they belongs. The MSDS key credential link is an attribute by the domain controller to store the public key in the Windows WHFB for enrolling a new user devices such as computers. In short, a user object in the Active Directory database will have its public key stored in a unique attribute. So let's just start with that. So this is how the authentication process works, the authorization. The domain controller decrypts the client pre-authentication data using a raw public key stored in this attribute, that is MSDS key credential link attribute of the user's account. Now there will be a certificate generation. This certificate is created by the user by the domain controller and sent back to the client. And authentications, after that the client can log into the Active Directory using domain using this particular certificate. So if we can see in the pictorial way, we can look like this. The client sends a authorization request. The certificate generation will give a certificate if the user is valid, and then he can access the Active Directory over here. So let's just enumerate the Active Directory properly, and we can see what do we mean by ACL, that is access control list. So there will be a many kind of ACLs applied to the domains as well as the users or the group, where the user should have a read write options or not, that like that way. So let's just start with this, and let's just wait for that. But let's just start with that about the steps which they had given. So we have to use a cd command to and navigate to the desktop folder over here. So as we are already here, so let me directly use a cd command, desktop. Okay, and then we have to use a PowerShell EP-bypass. So it means that it will bypass the execution policies over here. So let me just directly enter over here. Yes, and after that, let's just load a power view using a dot sourcing. So we have to add this particular dot because of the dot sourcing to load the PowerShell script over here. So let me just hit dot space, and then let me just tab over here. So do we have or not dot ps1, like that way. So we have load, and we didn't get any kind of output of successful response or some kind of errors, because once it has been completed, it will be look like this. Now we can use a particular commands of the ad, that is find interesting domain ACL hyphen results GUID. So let me just copy it. Let's just wait for that, for the output, and it will be get some like this way, where object dollar identity reference name for each value, where we are bypassing with the hr1, and then it will be using, we are interested in the current user, the vulnerable user, or the privilege assigned. We can filter it out by using this particular filters, that is about the select that particular object only, where the reference identity reference name, object dn, and Active Directory rights will be listed, and then it will be used in the where object also. You can see like this. So it will, the final command will be like this. So let me just copy it. So as you can see about the previous information, so by using this command we can get a many information over here, that is the object dn and ace flags and the ace types also. So in the ace type it says that access allowed, and then there will be sids over here, and it is really important. And if it is remaining to 509, then it will be admin one. So let's just check it out, and we can apply this particular filter which they had given over here. So let me just apply it. So as you can see that we have got identity reference name, object dn, and then cn when sprinkler, this is the user, and it has read write read property as well as a generic write also. So let's just understand about it, what do you mean by generic write. So as you can see the previous output, the user hr has the generic write permissions over the administrator object, but over here we have the object as a when sprinklers. So okay, and then this particular object visible on the cn attribute. Later we can compromise the account with the privilege by updating the msds credentials link with a certificate. This vulnerability is known as a shadow credentials attack. So now we have to perform an exploitation over here. We come to know that this particular user object is vulnerable for the shadow attacks, right? So let's just exploit it. We will use a tool which is named as a whisker for the privilege escalation vulnerability. So let's just directly use over here. So let me hit enter over here. So as you can see, they had given a particular Rubius command over here. You can see that you can run the Rubius with this particular syntax. Now, what does it mean over here? Rubius is a particular tool, and we are using a their modules, that is ask TGT for the ticket granting ticket, and the user is about the van sprinklers which we had said as our target. And they had also added the certificate over here, that is about the base 64. And then they had used a password of that particular user objects, and then we are performing attack on the aoc.local, that is on the main domain. And then there is a domain controller DC, that is southpole.aoc.local, and we are getting that particular credentials, and it will list out using the show commands. So for the better understand, they had given a particular display. The tool will conventionally provide the certificate necessary to authenticate the impersonations of the vulnerable user with a command ready to be launched using a Rubius. The core idea behind the authentication in AD is using the Kerberos protocol, which provides a token TGT, which I said ticket granting ticket. A TGT can be seen as a session token that avoids the credential prompt after the user authentication. Rubius is a C# toolset designed for direct Kerberos interactions, and exploitation was developed by the Spectre Ops as pass the hash attack. You can continue the exploitation by asking a TGT for the vulnerable user using the certificate generated in the previous command. You can obtain the certificate, you can acquire a TGT and impersonate the vulnerable users also. So this is the particular module which I explained you. The user we want to impersonate for the TGT, the certificate generated to impersonate the target user, the password used for decoding the certificate since it's encrypted, the target domain, and then the credentials. This particular retrieve with the NTLM hash which we are going to use it, and then a /DC with our domain controllers over here. So let me just paste this particular command. But before that, as this is a .exe file, so we have to use a / over here, and then we can run our Rubius commands like this, and then hit enter. So Rubius has been started, and this is asking TGT using this particular domain controller. Let's just wait for a few minutes. Cool. We had got this particular ticket also, and we can see that we had got the NTLM hash of this particular user. So NTLM works as a password in the AD to authenticate that particular user, and you can see this is the base 64 key and the 𝑟c4ℎMAC. It means that this is our NTLM hash, and the username is about the Wang sprinklers which we had given as a target. So let me just get and solve back to the question. What is the hash of the vulnerable user? So this is the hash. Cool. Now, what is the context of the flag.txt on the administrator desktop? Now, to perform this, we have to get into our Kali Linux from the attacker side, and we have to run a pass the hash. The pass the hash attack using the NTLM hash obtained from the previous command. This attack involves leveraging the encrypted password stored in the domain controller rather than relying on the plain text password. So to perform this attack, we will use another tool, that is 𝑚. So this particular command which we are going to use, and obviously the u tag is for the user, and in our scenarios the user is Van sprinklers, and we will use this NTLM hash over here. So let's just copy this command. So let me paste it, Ctrl+Shift+V, and hit enter. Now the command has been successfully executed, and it says that establishing connection to the remote endpoints. So you can see that we had got a PowerShell session over here where the C user Vans sprinklers, that particular user which was our target, and the document. So let's just move ahead and perform and get this particular flag.txt. So I will hit a dir over here because it's a Windows ls. Okay, I guess there is no documents over here, so cd space dot dot. Okay, and dir. Okay, so we have to move into the desktop folder, or else we have to get back into the directly admin folders over here. So let's just move to admin one, hit enter. Okay, and then we have to perform a dir, and we can see that we have to navigate to desktop over here. cd desktop, and then dir again to see the content. And okay, we have a flag.txt. So to perform this particular file in the view, we can't use a cat, we have to use a type and flag.txt. Okay, so we have got this particular flag. Let me just copy it and paste it over here. Submit. Yes, we had completed and solved the day 11 challenge where we had learned about the Active Directory. So I hope you understand the basics of Active Directory, different types of test cases we can perform. For the beginners, it will be little hard to understand, but as we say, practice makes us perfect. So I hope you will learn more about this another field of cybersecurity also. I'll see you in the next video. Till that time, goodbye and Jai Hind.